The FCC chairman threatening to pull ABC's broadcast license after this joke that Kimmel made about Charlie Kirk and MAGA and the like. But then we saw Trump has sued the New York Times, sued the Wall Street Journal, told the Associated Press that it can't cover him, at least they tried to at least. And then we've seen them now talking about going after what they consider hate speech. There's obviously a First Amendment in this country. Are you concerned about what the message that this sends to the country?
Well, there have been some wrong statements made, to say the least. When Attorney General said that they were going to go after hate speech, she backed off of that, but it was wrong. And I think the president doing threats against media is also wrong. We don't threaten the media. I think it's hard to say that was wrong, that information was false. I think there's grounds for that. But to threaten media and say you're going to pull their license, that's not what America's about. And we do have a freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and we should defend that. By the way, he hated the fact that he was being censored, prior to this election, and there was evidence of a lot of his stuff being taken off of Twitter and things.
Yeah, because there was discussion in the right about cancel culture.
So
is this now cancel culture on the right?
It is a little bit, but there's a difference between threatening media and saying you're going to pull their license. That's not right. It's wrong to say you're going to prosecute, like Pam Bondi was saying. She backed off that just to do due diligence there. That's different than saying, hey, what you said was wrong. People are very sensitive right now who you're blaming. I think the blame game is being done too much. I think maybe there should be some assessment where we're seeing a lot of these shooters from. But we have to acknowledge Republicans and Democrats have been murdered in the last year. And someone tried to burn the house down of the governor of Pennsylvania. It wasn't a guy from the right, it was an anti-Semitic guy going after Governor Shapiro because he's Jewish. But the point being is, Democrats, Republicans alike, office holders are suffering under this threat.
From the White House, we're hearing this is just a liberal problem, a problem on the left.
That's not a very unifying. I don't think it's accurate, for one, and it's not unifying. He had the opportunity here to acknowledge a couple of Democrats were murdered in Minneapolis, right, by a guy who called himself pro-life. We don't really know his motive, but still, he surely was more on the conservative side, it seems, from what we know. And Governor Shapiro, there was an attempted murder. And now we have Charlie Kirk, a Republican. And we've seen some church shootings recently that fit in this radicalized people that are angry. I do think we as office holders, though, there should be a line we draw. If you're a Democrat, I shouldn't be calling you a Nazi, or if you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I shouldn't be calling you a Nazi or fascist. Or if you're a Democrat, I shouldn't be calling you a communist or a ungodly, immoral. Whatever our guys do. My point is we've overdone it. And I think you and I, if I hear somebody being called a Nazi, we just let it go in one ear and out the other ear. But there's a small element of our population that, they take it serious and they're radicalized. So I think we owe ourselves better at how we treat each other.
Should Trump also tone down his rhetoric?
Absolutely. Like I've mentioned before, he's a populist. He centers on anger and opposition. That's what he does. But he had a chance to be more Ronald Reagan and try to unify both sides on this. It would be one thing if it was all Republicans being murdered, but it's not.
Brendan Carr, do you think that he should continue as chairman of the FCC?
Well, I'm not prepared. This is the first time I actually even heard of his name. I think he made a mistake weighing in on the ABC thing. His position, it has to keep him above that. And we have to protect freedom of speech, freedom of the press. And I don't think Kimmel was fired because of him, but it surely didn't look good.
Yeah.
And it was a dumb mistake.
Just more broadly, you were elected in 2016, of course, but you grew up very much in the Ronald Reagan era of conservatism. How do you think that Donald Trump has remade the Republican Party?
Well, I see some significant changes, and I'm hoping it's not a permanent remaking. I hope we're going to have a struggle over what we actually believe in. And I believe in what Ronald Reagan believed in, peace through strength, strong alliances. He was a big believer in NATO and standing up to Russia, with Soviet Union at the time, of course. Also believed in federalism. He believed in free trade. So there's some key ones now that President Trump is totally different.
Do you think he's overreaching on tariffs?
No, I think he is by far. Article 1 of the Constitution clearly gives us to Congress. Granted, we passed 3 laws in the last century, nothing recently, but in the last century that gives the president emergency powers. But most people will tell you this is not emergency powers, what he's doing.
And is it hurting your constituents?
Yeah, most people will tell you this is not emergency powers, what he's doing.
And is it hurting your constituents?
Yes, right. We heard just yesterday, we have a company that makes combines. They're moving all of their manufacturing that makes combines for Canada to Europe. Because of the tariffs from going to US to Canada are too high, they can't compete. So they're going to move all the manufacturing for Canadian combines to Europe. That's hundreds of jobs right there. Iowa and Nebraska are really struggling right now with our farm economy. We're not growing markets for corn and soybeans. The president's making trade deals, but not a single country that I can see has bought more corn or soybeans. And that's what we really need right now.
How do you think that Reagan would view how Trump is dealing with Putin?
I think it would be bad. Reagan stood up to Gorbachev. I don't see the moral clarity right now out of the White House. Ronald Reagan had moral clarity. Now, he also was willing to negotiate and try to lower the tensions, but he knew that communism was evil, and it was clear that he was stood steadfast with our NATO allies. Mm-hmm. And the president sends out such mixed messages on NATO and totally moral, ambiguous messages about Ukraine and Russia. It's probably the thing that bothers me the most.
When you say he lacked moral clarity, what about moral character? Do you think the president exhibits the more kind of moral character you want to see in the leader of this country?
Well, I'd rather focus on the moral clarity with Ukraine. He has said multiple times.
What about personal character? I mean, that's an important issue.
It is. Well, if you want to be a leader, people got to trust you, and you got to know your words, your bond.
Does he have the character that you want to see?
I think I'll skirt around that. I would rather. It's hard to. I got to be careful about judging what's inside here. I just think we got to be careful about that. So I'm very reluctant to be judgmental publicly. Maybe I got my private thoughts, but we do need some moral clarity on Ukraine and Russia.
But do you worry that there are not enough Republicans showing independence from your party at this time?
A little bit, and I sort of understand right now they want to give the president a chance. He's been in office now 8 months. Let's give him a chance.
8 months and 4 years. Yes.
Yeah, before that. I'm of the opinion that I should speak up and hopefully try to bring a point that tariffs aren't working, at least the coffee. I mean, I went to buy coffee when I came back from my apartment, and it was up $4 the bag that I buy, right? People, that's not success right there. So I feel like if we have an opportunity to speak up, other people think they'd rather try to give them more time. But I think a lot of people share my view on tariffs. They share my view.
A lot of people are scared of it. They're terrified about getting.
Yeah, I've been baptized in fire already. A lot of people don't want to go through that.